Hi everyone, it's Eve here again, and today I invited Florian Matusek, who is responsible for video analytics with Genetech, to talk a little bit with me. Florian, can you please first introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Florian. I'm the product group director for video analytics at Genetech. And as such, I'm responsible for all the video analytics products we develop in-house. But I also talk a lot with our great ecosystem of video analytics partners. So I have a pretty good overview over what's out there.
Nice, and actually I've seen that you started a new group, Video Analytics in the Wild or something. Can you tell about that as well?
Yes, so it's called Video Analytics in the Wild. It's a LinkedIn group. And the reason why I started it is because I was searching for a group to discuss and share information with other people interested in this topic in LinkedIn. And it turns out all you have out there are groups where you get some ads about some cheap cameras, and that's it. And I wanted to have a forum where manufacturers and end users and system integrators can talk about their real life experience in video analytics. And that's why I started it.
Yeah, I think it's a great initiative. Normally, we need a place where we can share and with sales-free zone, let's say that. Okay, so as you probably have heard from me many times, I normally like to start with very basics in whatever we're talking about. And of course, video analytics can be also helping with maintenance of the camera, with understanding how camera works. So what do we have to offer for this basic functionality?
So we have a great module that's called Camera Integrity Monitor. And what it does is it regularly checks the quality of the cameras for you. So at the one hand, it's typical tampering detection. So if somebody covered the camera intentionally, but it's also if, for example, the camera image goes black suddenly, or the camera is turned, or it's out of focus. It's really a maintenance tool that regularly checks your cameras. And you can do that, for example, every minute or every hour, or even just once per day. And this way it's very efficient and very scalable. So it's a super easy, simple tool. You can just apply to your existing camera systems, and you will get an overview over the health of your cameras to automate or to help in your maintenance rounds and to make sure that you always have a good camera quality when you need the recordings.
Yeah, but I think another point about camera integrity monitor that you really don't need a lot of hardware to enable it, and this is quite unique. Can you tell about that process a little bit more?
Yes, so the way we do it is typical video analytics usually would analyze the whole video stream all the time, which means you have to decode the video and so on. So that needs a lot of processing power. We go a completely different route where we only grab a few frames of each camera in a regular time. So for example, once per hour, and just check that. And then we cycle through all the cameras. And this way we need very, very little hardware resources and can do that even for thousands of cameras on a very, very little hardware footprint. And just a general note, this is actually where we will go in the future because scalability is one of the big challenges of video analytics that is not really solved yet. And we need solutions that allow you to apply video analytics to a large amounts of cameras. And Camera Integrity Monitor is a great example of that.
Thank you. And so let's move a little bit in more complicated scenarios. What type of security video analytics can be useful for the banking or financial institution environment?
Well, there is a bunch of stuff, actually. Typically, I would say perimeter protection is the thing that you want to use to protect your HQ, your company buildings, even your individual locations in your bank. So detecting if somebody is breaking in, climbing over a wall, going on your perimeter. But another example is also object detection. So detecting if somebody left an object or if there's anything out of the ordinary, I would say. Yeah, actually, you're showing a very good example of that. This is a loitering detection where you can detect if somebody is loitering in your vestibule. And bank vestibules are an ideal environment for that because you know that usually at certain hours, not many people should be there. And if they are there, they should really be there for a short amount of time. So they should go in, go to the ATM, take their cash, and go out. But using that, what we see here, the object detection, you can say, okay, alert me anytime somebody is staying in the vestibule longer than 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or whatever. And this way you can detect any person loitering there.
Yeah, talking about loitering, I think another important example when we're not using only video analytics, but we also use other systems like integration with the ATM software. So by connecting these two sensors, we could say that somebody is loitering in front of the ATM for a certain amount of time, but there's no transaction happening. And this is something which is out of the ordinary. And I think this is one of the biggest challenges for the banks in the foyer, is to make sure that people are there doing what they're supposed to do.
Yes, and to solve this problem, there are multiple ways of doing it, and connecting the sensors is a great way. You could, for example, also detect or count when somebody goes into the entrance, and if there is no transaction in the next 30 seconds or 1 minute, that's another exception that you want to detect.
Yeah, great example. So let's think a little bit about the corporate environment. I know that we just released several months ago the tailgating model. Tell us about that.
So tailgating is really a big problem in a lot of institutions. So what tailgating means is if somebody tries to get into an environment where usually an access card or some kind of access is required. So typically people would go behind another person who just badged in to open the door, and another person would go through. So this is the typical tailgating scenario and problem that you have out there. What tailgating detection does is it automatically detects every time a person goes through a door, and will count how long the distance is between people. So if two people go inside in a matter of 3 seconds or 5 seconds, this would raise an event because this is too short of a time for the door to close, to badge in, and to open it again. Of course, you can go further and again connect multiple systems like access control or other systems to detect that. But this module actually allows you to just do it based on the camera, which is really, really powerful and really useful for many enterprises.
Very interesting. So let's take a step further and think about some applications of video analytics within the security platform, which go beyond security. And what comes to mind is, of course, people counter.
Yes. So people counting is what you think it does. It basically counts how many people go across the line in this case. And this is really useful for multiple applications. Typically, you would think this is more in a retail environment where you want to compare to transaction data, but it's actually also very useful for banks. On the one hand, of course, to know in any kind of building how many people go in. So if you have a local location of a bank, you might want to know how many people actually go into my bank and compare that with other data, for example, with ATM data or with your cash register or whatever. So it gives you statistical information, how many people enter an area. And additionally, you can combine that with occupancy management. So based on people counting, you can know how many people are inside right now, which is very useful for other types of applications where you have to restrict it, for example, for COVID, but independently of COVID, of course, as well. Yeah, you're just pulling up some examples of how we leverage deep learning. So people counting is a great application where we apply deep learning to become super accurate. On the left side, you see the video how it traditionally worked, also in our product, but in many other products as well, where you do people counting based on motion in the image. And what you can see on the left side is that all the red stuff, all of that is motion. So it's not only people, but it's also reflections, shadows, and so on. So you get a very bad count. In this case, it's missing almost every person. So we have an accuracy less than 50%. On the right side, you see the same scenario with people counting based on deep learning. And what you do in deep learning is you take hundreds and thousands of images of people and you train a neural network how a person looks like. And this way you count only people and ignore anything else. So just by default, you're ignoring lighting changes, you're ignoring shadows, you're ignoring dogs or anything that doesn't look like a person. you're not counting, even in these kind of difficult scenarios that we see here. And the difference is staggering. So here the difference is between below 50% and over 95% accuracy. So this is a application where deep learning is super powerful.
Super powerful, super simple, and super useful, especially when we think about the COVID applications, when now we need to regulate the amount of people in the branches. And then we can think about the business intelligence applications, which we can get out of it. So we actually can measure amount of people within the branch, and therefore we can help to improve customer service. I think we have one of the great examples with the customer in Brazil. Who is now implemented the 100 branches with people counter and queue. I think you can tell us more about that as well.
Yes, so this is a bank in Brazil with actually thousands of branches, but they are just deploying in hundreds of branches business intelligence applications. And people counting is one of them, where they are treating their locations more and more like you would know from retail, like retail stores. So you don't want to have just branches where people go and get their money, but you want to know more what is happening there. So how many people go into which branch? How do you compare that? How is it on weekdays? How is it in the weekends? How many people are in there right now, which helps you over time to optimize your staffing. So you need to know how many people you need actually in each location. And they use this analytics to generate this data, but it's also, of course, very important to visualize this data and make it useful. And what we provide out of the box is actually seen here. These are our dashboard widgets right in the security desk that give you all the statistics over time, how many people go in and out. You can combine the data of multiple cameras, which is very important, especially if you have large entrances. You can have data per branch. But also what's very important is you're not locked in. So we provide you the tools to visualize this information. But if you have a separate dashboard system, you can actually grab this information through our SDK or also CSV files and import it into your own system so you can visualize it in your own dashboards.
Yeah, but this is one of the important points you brought up. I was actually thinking to incorporate it with this talk that it's all about unification as well. It's to bring in different systems and sensors, because when we're talking about the people counting, we also can combine it with the information from access control if some of the exits are controlling by access control system. So it can be the turnstiles information. So we're not limited with video analytics. We just get the data and we can combine it. So instead of thinking of standalone system, it's always important to first look what do you have and what you can combine from your existing infrastructure. But of course, we cannot finish this talk without talking about privacy protection. So can you tell us about that, and who is using privacy protection and masking within our customer base?
Yes, so what our privacy protector does is what you see on the right side. That's dynamic masking. So it masks all the movement, all the people in the video, so you cannot identify the persons, but you still see what is happening. And what this does is it gives you an additional layer to give access to your video. So for example, your standard operator might not be allowed to view the full video, but will only be allowed to see in a pixelated way what is happening there, and you have the right authorization to unlock the original video, for example, in case of an incident. But this is very flexible. Actually, you could have a branch manager that does have access to the original video, but also has access to other branches, but only in a pixelized way. And this allows you first to implement internal protocols and processes, but it also helps you to comply to regulations like GDPR or other regulations like in California. To give you a full list of using this would be really extensive, and we would be sitting here for hours because it's a lot of customers. But I remember when we first started this, our first customer actually was in Germany, and it was a large bank in Germany. It's actually the third largest bank in Germany, and they use Privacy Protector in all of their branches in order to comply to internal privacy regulations to protect the privacy of their employees. So the security, the SOC, and the security people can only access the pixelated video And if they want to access the original video, unlock the original video in case of an incident, they need the okay of the the legal department, as well as the head of security. So both of them have to agree, and then you can unlock the original video. And this is just one example. We have over all verticals, we have hundreds of thousands of customers.
Well, thank you, Florian. I think if we talk about all the applications, we definitely are not going to go and work today. So thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. And I invite our viewers to talk to us about it. If you want some more information, you always know where to find us. And thank you for watching this. And we will be back to you soon. Bye-bye.